Lafia, everyone. Peace, love, and light. So, I want to start off by telling everyone thank you so much for the support. Thank you for the feedback you guys have been giving me on the videos. And I'm going to tell you this, that every time I get a message, it helps me. I know I'll get I needed this video, this is what I need. But when you guys send me those text messages, a lot of times in that moment, I need those messages as well, to let me know that, what I'm doing is not in vain, and that I'm not the only one dealing with trauma. And it makes me, sometimes we just get caught up in our own little world, and we are dealing with what we're dealing with, and we just think it's just the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, my stuff is just so important, that we forget that this isn't. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one dealing with things. I'm not the only one dealing with unhealed trauma. And so by that, it just makes me want to learn more, research more, and share with everyone I love what I'm learning along this journey. And so today's video, I wanted to discuss parenting and parenting from a place of trauma. It's going to be more so for me, it's going to be more so mothering from a place of trauma, since I am a mother. And some of my key points might be more so directed towards our black sons, because I am a mother of a black son. Even though I'm a daughter, I don't have daughters. So, and I believe the relationship with a mom and a son and a daughter are different. And one of the ways that we parent is going to be different. For instance, our men, our young boys, their love language is more so respect, where girls' love language is more show love. Like, they need that love, they need that affection. And whereas our boys, they earn for that respect. They need that respect more than that feeling of love for them. And for us being moms, I'm going to start off by saying too that could be like a foreign language to us, because we are women, we are girls, we have that feminine energy, and we want love, we want to receive it, and we want to give it. And so sometimes for us, just loving our sons, we feel like that's respect, where for them, they don't feel that. And so I had to learn that as well, that my way of what I thought is just me loving you might not have been the best approach to every situation. And so just when you hear me talking, like I said, it might be more geared so towards mothering our young black men and mothering our young black sons. But still, I feel like you can take from it and even use it in parenting our girls as well. So the first thing I wanted to say is that we have, for multiple generations, been parenting from a place of trauma. There are a few who I believe have been able to tap into that true divine feminine energy and parent from that place. But a lot of us, because we have trauma, a lot of us have unhealed trauma that we have not acknowledged, or that we have been able to have a place and space to talk about and heal from. And so when we get the most important role in our lives, which is parenting, because fortunately, shall I say, when you become a parent, it is a relationship unlike any other relationship. You cannot just divorce. If your child starts acting a certain, like, this isn't what I signed up for, this isn't the child I thought I was getting, you can't just simply say, I don't think this is working. You move on with your life, I move on with my life. We can't do that. These are our babies, and forever we are tied to them. And so it hosts for a whole new dynamic, and it hosts for a whole new relationship, where if you have this trauma that you have not healed from, it is going to show up in your parenting. It is going to show up in a way that you might be passing down the trauma you experienced as a child onto your kids. And so for me is recognizing that, hey, I'm not parenting from my true feminine divine self, which is intuition, which is love, which is protecting. But instead, I'm allowing this trauma that has occurred to me to show up in a way of being disrespectful, of being controlling, not setting boundaries, not allowing them to set boundaries. And so it just becomes for a cycle that keeps going through our community, and it creates these generational curses that everyone is trying to break now. And so I say, let's start it with the way we parent, the way we mother, and we tap back into that true divine feminine way of how we should be mothering our young black boys and our young black daughters. So the first thing I wanted to discuss is going to be the power of our tongue. This one right here is something that I have definitely seen in our community, where we let our tongue cut our boys. Ooh. I mean, and because I think we don't realize that the power of our tongue and how our tongue is connected to these young little souls, and is connected to their true divine self, is connected to the confidence they feel about themselves. And so at a young age, we talk to them in a way that we've been conditioned to talk, in a way that in our culture is okay for black moms to talk to young black kids, to talk to young sons, in a way that it's always been okay to, and it's always been accepted. But what's happening now is that these young boys who have been talked to all their lives by their mom, by the first relationship with another female, this is how they're being talking to, and now it's showing up in their relationships. And so because we have parent from a place of our own dysfunctional victimization, a parent with emotional violence instead of a place of nurturing and patience, they grow up and they don't become good fathers. They don't become good husbands. They don't become good partners. And it's because they weren't taught. They weren't taught. You know, if a child is taught to a certain way at a young age, all their lives, and no one steps in and tells them this is wrong, how you're being taught to is wrong, how you're being corrected, how you're being disciplined, they grow up and what do they think? This is how you talk to people. This is how, you know, when someone doesn't do what you want them to do, you respond out of anger. You respond out of disrespect. You respond out of hurt, to where you're going to hurt that other person. And so at a young age, when we think that we're, you know, we talk to them this way so they respect us. They have to respect us. It's not that they're respecting us, it's that they're fearing us. And I know you guys, you know, put the fear in the child. But for me, especially for me as a mom, I always battle with that. And I chose to not do that. And one of my reasons is that I felt like my goal is not to just make my life easier as a parent in the present, but to lay a foundation for my son so that when he grows up and he has these other relationships, I'm not having to parent so much. I'm not having to step in and tell him, hey, your behaviors or the way you're talking to people or the way you is not correct. I wanted to teach him at a young age. And one of those things was, let us have a level of respect for each other. It works both ways. So instead of you just fearing me and you're doing things out of fear, let me teach you to do it out of a level of respect. Because what happens is, at a young age, they will fear you. As they start getting older and they start becoming teenagers and they start getting hair on their chest and they start getting bigger and stronger, what do you think happens? A lot of times we start seeing the disrespect show up in the teenage years even more. And then you're questioning, what happened to my sweet little boy who was always so respectful for me? No, he wasn't being respectful. He was fearing you. He was fearing that he would be cussed out, talked to a certain way, degraded, hit. And so he learned, let me do it like this. But when they get older and they start coming into manhood, they start, those hormones and stuff start kicking in. That fear starts to go out the door. And what comes in? That disrespect comes in. And now we're sitting here and we're asking ourselves, why isn't my son respecting me anymore? Have you been respecting him? Have you showed him how to respect others? Have you showed him how to respect loved ones? Have you showed him how to respect elders? Have you showed that? So we have to be very careful in how we talk to our children, and especially our young black boys. Because I also believe that a mother in a relationship, her son, or her relationship with her son, it sets the level for his confidence too. And I feel in our society we have a lot of young black men, and I'm not even gonna say young, because I know some black men who are in their 40s, 50s, and still don't have confidence. They don't have that confidence to be that father that they're really can be, or be that husband they really can be, or go out and succeed in life like they can, because at a young age their confidence was broken by their mom and by the way she spoke to him. Instead of speaking life into him, she did the opposite. But I want to say, we have to give ourselves grace, because for one, we don't know better. We don't. Now, if you know better and you're still doing it, that's abuse. But if you don't realize that the way you're talking to your child is coming from a place of trauma, it's coming from a place of dysfunctional victimization, you don't realize, because you're so traumatized, you don't realize the power you have. And the power you have in raising these young boys. You don't realize that. And so you're passing the trauma that has occurred to you, you're just passing it down to them. Next kind of topic I want to talk about is parenting from a place of controlling, which a lot of times in my other video, like I talked to you guys, when you are reacting from a place of control, that's actually one of the responses of trauma. And so when we start to parent, that's going to show up too. And when we think it's just us wanting the best for our kids, or us protecting our kids, it's not allowing them to be their true divine self. It's not allowing them to truly find who they are. But instead, it's us putting our beliefs and putting our trauma and putting our, these scary thoughts onto them. And I'm going to say this, because there's a difference between parenting from a place of control and parenting from a place of setting healthy boundaries. And a lot of times, if you haven't dealt with trauma, you haven't dealt with your own childhood trauma, you don't even know how to set boundaries. You just don't, because you weren't allowed to have boundaries as a young child. So as an adult, what happens is, what you may think is you setting healthy boundaries for your child so that they don't get in trouble, so that, you know, they become successful young men, young women, is no, it's really just you parenting from a place of control out of a trauma response. And so I know for a lot of us parents, I've done this, and I've seen almost everyone in my tribe do this too, where in that moment you're parenting and you're either disciplining them, or you're you're acting out of control. You think you're disciplining, but you're acting out of control. You'll say and do things extreme, take away stuff, not getting down to the root of, okay, well, why did you act like this? Why, for you don't even care. Like, you're not supposed to be doing this, and it's bringing up this fear and this trauma in you. So you don't want to get down to the root of it. You think you just want to do something that's just going to stop it. And so then after you've done this, you yelled, you screamed, you taken away, you feel bad, you feel guilty. Like, man, I should have maybe sat down with him, and maybe I should have sat down and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you failing in your classes right now? Why aren't you going to class? Why haven't you been doing your chores? What's going on? We allow us, and we give ourselves grace when we're having off days, and when we're not living up to the expectations or doing things in our lives that we should be doing. And we'll say, hey, I'm just, I'm either depressed, or this anxiety, the stress of life is getting to me. But we don't give that same grace to our kids. And let me tell you, our babies are hurting. Our babies are carrying a lot of, they feel, one of my younger cousins, she told me, she said, Sierra, she said, the world is in a fucked up place right now. The energy of the world is messed up, and we feel it. We feel it all. And it made me stop and say, damn, you know what? You're right. The same way we feel things, they do too. If not even more intense, because they haven't learned how to work through these. So when we just act out of, let me control the situation, let me just discipline, without sitting down and trying to get to the root of it, our feminine and our divine energy will kick in afterwards, and then we start feeling bad. We start feeling guilty, like, you know what, I shouldn't, I went to, but instead of still, sometimes we might sit down and talk and say, hey, what's going on? But sometimes the damage is already done, to where the child has already shut down. I don't want to talk to you now. Or because we feel so bad, we won't stick to the consequences that we gave them for their actions, and said, well, okay, you were grounded for 2 weeks. Oh, it's okay, you go somewhere now, or let me buy you something. Let me, I feel bad. Let's go do this. Or, yeah, you could go out and do that now. And so what that teaches them is there's no boundaries. There's no boundaries. And so the difference in what being controlling and setting healthy boundaries look like is from the get-go, setting boundaries. Okay, this is what we expect. One, you're not allowed to be out after a certain time of night. That's a boundary. We're not even going to discuss it. We're not going to, two, instead of looking at grades, as long as you're giving your best, as long as you're doing your best, as long as I know you're doing the work, as long as I know you're showing up, we're good. But as soon as you're not showing up and you're not doing your work, okay, that's a boundary. Let's figure out, once you cross, let's figure out what's going on. Whether it's chores, to teach them responsibility. This is a boundary where no matter what, you have to do this chore. Taking the trash out, doing your own laundry. Your room should be clean. I come in every Friday. Let's have that. And so it's not, what it is presetting these boundaries ahead of time, instead of being in reactive mode. And so then what that teaches our young boys and men is that they can have to set their own boundaries. as they get older. And I'm going to say also another thing with boundaries, since we're on this subject, is not allowing them to have boundaries. Okay. And I think this is a subject that I could go a little more deep into, but I'll just kind of touch it a little. In most households, especially us black women households, this is my house. What I say, what I go. No locking doors, no telling me what to do. And what happens, like, say a young boy's in his room and the door is shut and we just barge in. We have been conditioned to think because it's our house, our rules, we're allowed to do that. What that is showing and teaching that young black boy is that my voice is not important. My boundaries, I'm not allowed boundaries. So because I'm not even allowed boundaries, I can't even be in my own room and have the respect of someone just kind of, knocking before they come in, and announcing themselves before they come in. You're showing them, no, you don't get boundaries, not in here. And so, because that's at home in their childhood, they then grow up, and even girls, then they grow up, and then in relationships, what happens? They don't set boundaries. They don't set these boundaries of, if this happens, this is a no for me. This is a complete. We don't allow them to have that. And so what I say, let me tell you, for me, this was a hard one because, I just thought, hey, like, I'm going to say, like, I'm a very, when it comes to Nico stuff, my son, I love to be affectionate with him. I love, and he might be just in his bed laying down, chilling, and, I'll come in and just lay down, and he's like, Ma, like, I was just in here. I'm like, well, why are you being so mean? I started taking it personal, but it's like, hey, that was a boundary. Like, I didn't even ask, hey, can I come in? Can I, he might be in a mood, but because I just feel like you're my son, you're mine, you're my, I can do and say whatever I want. And I think that maybe when we start looking at our children as not being our property, not being ours, because they're not ours. They are not ours. Once you learn that, you'll be more open to the idea of allowing them to have boundaries. And I'm going to say, when you allow your kids to have boundaries at a young age, they grow up to be more successful people, more healthier people, because they're able to set these boundaries in their own lives as they grow up. So then also that goes into respect. I read this book called The Mother-Son Respect Effect. I think it's something like that, or the Respect Mother-Son Effect. And he talks about how us as moms, we believe our sons should always respect us, which I agree. But then he goes to say it works both ways. We can't expect for our sons to respect us and we don't respect them. And so he says, a lot of moms, and I was the same way, like, hold on, so you're telling me that even if he's not respecting me, I still should be giving him respect? Like, hold on, that's not what I was learned, that's not what I was taught. At all points in time, I'm the mama, I'm the, especially us black moms, our young boys need to respect us. But then it goes back into, okay, well, how do they learn how to respect? It's certain things that we expect them to do when we have never taught them. We've never given it to them. But then we expect them to grow up and be these respectful, successful young men, and we have never even taught them that. And so we should always, no matter what, be parenting from a level of respect. I feel like at any given time when we don't parent from a level of respect, it's our trauma showing up. And I can share a story. Everyone who knows my son knows he is very outspoken. He is very. And I would get so much like, he needs to do this, or you should be doing this. And I've always said, one, my son has a personality that I don't care who was raising him. His personality was going to show up in this way. If at times maybe, he might have said stuff that I think a lot of parents who parent from that old school way would see it as a disrespect. Whereas a lot of times for me, it was just me listening, was him voicing his voice to me, him telling me his opinion. Now, we did have to work on, okay, it's a way you say things. Now, you can say how you feel, but it does need to be in a more respectful way. But then that goes back to he was being taught certain ways how to voice how he felt, because of trauma that was passed down from other people in our family, from me, so it was like, okay, I do want you to be able to voice your opinion and voice your feelings, but let's do it in a more respectful way. And so that's one of the things we have worked on. But so recently over the summer, before I say that, I would like to say that I think if we also look at our children as being our biggest spiritual teacher, and if you know me, I say my children are they were my biggest spiritual teachers. They come, if we get out of our heads that we're the ones to teach them everything, but instead we put in our heads, I can learn from them, if not more than what I could teach them. It opens up a whole new door. So I say that to say, over the summer, I had a very teachable moment for my son, where he was late coming to a basketball game, and there was college scouts that were there. And so in that moment, a trauma response, like, I'm already there, he's supposed to be here, he's not here. I see college coaches, on the benches, and we a minute into the game, he just not pulling up. A trauma response for me showed up of me having to always be perfect as a young child, me having to always put on this facade of being perfect so that everyone else around me, I felt like I would feel love in that moment. So now in this moment, it's not perfect. My world's not being perfect, and this standard that I hold him up to be perfect, because that's how I hold my self to, it was crumbling. And so now a trauma response, and in that moment my trauma response was anger. It was an outburst, and not even realizing, okay, I'm not even listening to what could have really happened. I just, in my mind, you should have made sure, I don't care if you had to leave 2 hours early, you should have made sure you was here on time. But me not even realizing that maybe the whole time here, he's already beating himself up. He's already telling himself, dang, and so I meet him out the door before he even comes in, and I start going off. And I'm normally, everyone who knows me, it's rare that I raise my voice at my son. I can probably count on both hands all his life how many times I've raised my voice, and on one hand I could probably count how many times I've cussed at him, because I'm more conscious of, because of my childhood, I'm more conscious of how I talk to him. But in that moment, it was like, trauma times 10, just showing up. It's showing up in my parenting. And it was people outside and everything, and I cussed at him. I raised my voice, I cussed at him. And I remember, and this is something I will probably forever remember, and I remember him just walking up to me, and in the most calm zen, like, for me it was like my Buddhist teacher coming to me or whatever, and he just said, "Who are you talking to?" He said it in that way. And if I would have let my trauma and my ego, it would not have ended good. I probably would have, most other parents, if their child, they're cussing their child out and their child responds to them, "Who are you talking to?" It would have probably been World War I. Like, it would have been like, no. But one, he said it in a respectful way. He said it in the most calm and quiet, but in a way of like, I am still a human. I am still your son. And you are talking to me? Like I'm someone off of these streets. And in that moment, I just got quiet. And I was like, and I apologized. I think that later on that evening, I told him, I said, I shouldn't have talked to you that way. I said, I reacted out of a place of fear. My fear turned into anger because I know how much you worked for this. And so for me, it was like just seeing, again, this one of my trauma responses. I start off with one thought and then it turns into 1,000. And so it turned into, oh my gosh, you're never going to get a college scholarship because of this one moment or whatever. And so I reacted out of that instead of reacting from a place of my true feminine divine. Because in that moment, honestly, he was late. There was nothing we could do. There was nothing I could say. There was nothing that I could do to him. Again, it was probably a teachable and learning experience without me even saying anything to him. I should have just, okay, you play the game. You go out there, do your best. Now, after the game, have a more level conversation with him. Like, hey, Atlanta traffic. So next time, if it normally only takes you 45 minutes, you leave 45 minutes prior to that too. So just in case something happens when it comes to something that's this important. And so that right there was a moment of respect. I have to give it to. I have to be the bigger person. One, because I am the mother. And I have to give that respect. Even in the moments when I feel like I'm being the most disrespected, I need to give him that respect. That way it shows him that you don't just give respect when you feel like you're getting it, or of when the other person is deserving of it. Who are we to say this person is deserving of our respect or not? And me being a mother, me being a conscious mother that I want to be, I'm not going to allow my child to take me out of my character or events take me out of my character of how I want to be remembered as a parent or how I want to show up in this world as a mother. And so I think that is a big thing too, is that we learn and we get it out of our head that we are the only ones deserving of respect. No, that's not fair, and that's not okay. So I think that's pretty much that was most of the key points I wanted to kind of just go over and discuss. I hope it does help. I have a lot of grace for us Black moms. I have a lot. We have been through, and especially our single Black moms, we have been through a lot. And I know that just being a mom and a mom to a young Black boy, it feels like it's like the weight is on your shoulders. There's times where, you just want to cry for your babies, where you see how this world is not nurturing for them, not loving for them, not understanding for them, not giving them this grace. And it hurts. It truly hurts. So for me, one of the ways for me to deal with that is to be the opposite. Be that opposite for my son. I'm not going to treat him like this world treats him. I'm not going to be cold. I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to yell. And I'm not going to say that this is something that happens, that I do every time, like the story I showed you. But when it did happen and my son showed up as my spiritual teacher, I was able to listen. And I was able to take that as a teachable moment. And I'm going to tell you, I probably will never do that again, because it sticks in my head now. Anytime when I'm about to respond out of that place of anger and trauma, let me stop. Even if I have to come back, let me give it 5 minutes to 30 minutes. And then, and one of the things I do with Nico a lot too is I ask him. I'll say, do you think as a mom I don't give you respect, or do you think that I haven't spoke with you enough? And he tells me the truth. Y'all know Nico, he tells me the truth. but it helps me to see, because a lot of times we live where we think we're the best moms. We think because we've sacrificed and we've done this that we're the best moms, but sometimes we have just done the best we knew. We have parented from a place that we thought was the best, and this is all we know, but that doesn't make it the best. And it's okay to say, oh, I wasn't the best mom then. I didn't. But it's not too late to start to change. And no, it's not going to happen overnight. And no, all that trauma that might have occurred is just going to be wiped away. No, that's not what's going to happen. But it starts that change. And it starts that change to where that healing can start to occur, not only within you but within our kids. And so, like I said, what on this journey and anything, when it comes to parenting, when it comes to self-care, when it comes to healing from your traumas, is give yourself grace. It's not easy. It's not easy being a Black mom in this world of society. Like I've said, it's not, especially when the traumas, 150 years ago, we were in slavery, we weren't given the opportunity to be real moms. We weren't given that opportunity to mother from our true divine, feminine, loving, nurturing place. We weren't given that. And so we just wanted our babies to survive. We want you to live. And that didn't need nurturing. That didn't need loving. And so, again, like I said, 150, go back, that's like only 3 generations. So if that type of parenting is still fresh within us, within our DNA, within our, our culture, what do we expect? And so today what I say is we have to do that trauma healing, not just for ourselves, but we have to do it. We have to do it for our kids, because what's going on is that we're passing this trauma onto them, and the same traumas that have occurred to us, we're then passing it onto them. And we're wondering, we're looking at these young kids and we're like, what is going on? You guys killing each other. These babies are walking around with a lot of hurt, pain, abandonment, just like we were. And I feel like this generation, they're more in tune to their feelings. I don't know, it's something about them. You can have, just by talking to them, you're like, And so I think it's showing up more for them. It's definitely showing up more for them. So I hope this video helped you guys, and maybe where you could evaluate your parenting styles. There are a couple books, if you guys are interested. One of the first book I would recommend, and at one point in time I was buying this book and giving it to all new parents, but is the Conscious Parent, I believe, or Parenting Consciously. She is amazing. I love her. That book is so good. As well as the Mother-Son Respect Effect. That's what it is. The Mother-Son Respect Effect. That is a good book too. Just if you guys want to, text me or message me and ask me, some things. But I think once you guys start doing the trauma work and you start doing the trauma healing, you're going to be able to show up as that true divine feminine energy in your children's life that they need. So I love everyone. I hope you have a blessed day.